Don't you hesitate.
Oh, I'm so ready. Question is, are they ready?
They're never ready.
They never ready for this podcast. And it is
Breakfast with the Bullocks.
And that's us, y'all. You may think of somebody else right now, but it is us. Yeah. So what we talking about today, girl?
So today we're talking about a very interesting topic. City living. You know, you were born and raised in Brooklyn. You've always basically lived in Brooklyn.
Oh, yes.
So I'm going to start with, do you like living in the city? And why not?
All right. So, yes, you're right. I was born here in the city, Brooklyn, New York. And I'm very proud to be born in this great city because there's so much that's good about it. But even while being born here and raised here, I haven't always been the biggest fan because, you know, where I come from, Bed-Stuy, it wasn't like always the best place. So many things would be happening, you know, and it kind of turned me off to the city life early on in my own life. So I haven't always been the biggest fan. So many times people would be like, yeah, you know, I came from New Jersey just to come down here, or I came from upstate New York just to come down here for a weekend and spend time. And I would be like, what? Why would you want to come down here? You know, so even though I didn't know too much else aside from the city, I still always had that feeling like I wouldn't want to just vacation here if I had somewhere else to be.
Yeah.
You know, so in that way, it's a love-hate relationship because I didn't like a lot of the things that we were subjected to in the city. But then at the same time, I know it helped me be a stronger person as well. Stronger mentally, physically, I feel. And in a lot of ways, I feel like it helped me keep a cool head, you know, to be able to live in the city and to keep on living. So it's been a love-hate relationship. How about you, though? Because, you know, you wasn't born here. And I know you was pointing to yourself when I was mentioning people that would just come down to visit. So yeah. What's on your mind about city living right now?
So I'm from upstate. What city people would consider upstate New York? What upstate New York people would consider downstate? But I'm from like right above Westchester, Putnam County. And I used to love the city. I loved visiting Brooklyn, visiting Manhattan. My mom used to take us to Brooklyn a lot, me and my sister, when we were kids, because we'd like go there to go shopping. My mom grew up in Brooklyn, so you know, we would visit family every so often. And I really enjoyed, especially going into Manhattan, like all the lights and the hustle and bustle, and there's always so many things to do. However, since living in Brooklyn, I have a very different concept of the city now with city living. I used to think, oh, if you live in the city, there's always things to do. Everything's going to be so close by. But that's actually not always the case. It used to take me an hour to drive from upstate into Manhattan, or like an hour 15, hour 30, depending where I'm going in Brooklyn. And it can actually take just as long, you know, to get into Manhattan. We live in lower Brooklyn, so it could take 50 minutes to get to the other side of Brooklyn.
Oh, yes.
And it can take an hour and 15 to get to a certain part of Manhattan. So it's almost like, well, I could have stayed living upstate
for all of that, yeah.
And granted, I was living with my parents. If we were to go live in Westchester now, unless maybe it's like the Yonkers area, we really wouldn't be able to afford it. So that kind of brings to one positive point, as much as I don't really enjoy living in Brooklyn right now. One positive point is as expensive as it is to live here, it's actually much more affordable than living in Westchester, like in the towns all along the Hudson River, like Peekskill, like Sleepy Hollow. All these beautiful, cute little towns are so unaffordable to live in. And those are places I would love to live.
So you know what? We got to think about when you saying affordable.
Yeah.
But would it be worth it to have that peace of mind and pay a little more for that peace of mind?
Well, then that brings a whole nother level, because then it's like, well, maybe we have to get more high-paying jobs. Like right now we have Baby J, so, you know, we're
she in the building.
There she goes. But, you know, right now you're working and I'm not. Before I was working and you were not, then we would definitely have to both be working and maybe both be working higher paying jobs. So then are we really enjoying the place that we're living if we're working so much more, and maybe we're missing out more on Jada's life? But that's kind of getting a little off topic.
Well, it's all part of the city living.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, so now that we're going in that direction with it, what's some of the pros, some of the good things about living in the city?
I still think one of the pros is that there's things close by, even if the really cool things to do are a little further from where we live. We have a grocery store literally like right there. I'm looking at it, which is amazing. If we were to live somewhere else, we might have to drive 10 minutes to get to a grocery store, which is still not bad, but it's like, you know, picking everything up, getting in the car, driving over there. When I could just say, oh, we need eggs, gotta walk over, you know, real quick.
We could even go down the fire escape. You know what I'm saying? So another pro to city living. You know what I'm saying? Just go right down the fire escape. If you don't want to deal with people, since, you know, now you got the pandemic and all of that, you don't want to see no people, you just go right down your fire escape, be outside, and go right to the corner store.
Yeah,
the corner supermarket, actually.
Yeah, it's a supermarket. It's not even a bodega. It's like got the whole thing right there.
All of it.
I still prefer Stop and Shop because they really have a lot more, you know, and sometimes the prices are a little better. But then I'd have to get in the car and drive 10 minutes to Stop and Shop.
True.
But yeah, so I think definitely having the stores really close. If we need to go to the bank, I could literally walk right to the bank. So,
which we have done.
Yeah. So I think that's definitely a great thing, that some things are like really close that you don't have to worry about it. What's maybe one pro that you can think of?
One pro, which I feel is the biggest pro, is that even though, like you said, we are Lower Brooklyn, we still are so close to some of our closest family members, like my mother, my little brother, your parents. A lot of the places.
I mean, we could be a little closer to my parents.
That's true.
It's like 2 hours of traffic.
Yeah, but we were also talking about, you know, all these far out places where we can go.
Yeah, like Albany is more affordable. Anywhere in the South is more affordable.
But that would take us so far away from our people.
Yeah, that's true.
And we love them. And we need them. And we want them. You know, so for me, that's one of the biggest pros, is still being able to have access to all our friends and family that we have here.
But you can talk about moving to La Jolla, California. So
La Jolla is an exception, though, girl. If we move to La Jolla and we show them how nice it is there, I believe they're going to pick up and come with us, bro.
Goodness.
La Jolla is special, though. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and pricey like a mug.
Sometimes you got to pay for that, though. You know, the quality. When you want something that got a lot of quality, sometimes you got to drop that bread on it. Unless it's love.
You were talking about,
Yes, because you definitely have a lot of quality. Let's take a moment to look at the beautiful, beautiful woman that we have right here before us, okay? So, you definitely have so many beautiful qualities and great qualities about yourself.
Thank you.
However, I didn't have to pay for that because that was love, you know? But yeah, you know, sometimes you do have to pay for the quality of where you're going to be living.
Yeah.
But, you know, I would definitely go to La Jolla, you know. But other than that, when it comes down to, I know the biggest pro for being here is still having our friends and family around, you know.
Yeah.
I would miss them if we did go elsewhere. But city living will drive you to pick up and leave.
I think another positive, though, that you are definitely going to agree with, because we've talked about this before, is the diversity that comes with city living.
That's true.
Like,
that's definitely true.
You saying it like it's not a big deal, but...
I mean, because in the moment, I feel like sometimes the diversity can be on the pro side and the con side, depending on what kind of people you're around, because sometimes a place could be so diverse and there's so many different types of people, but the people within the community may not all see the diversity as something good. What if you have somebody living next door to you who's of a different race, but they hate your race? How would you feel about that? Like I feel like we're the kind of people that we love the diversity because it's like, okay, everybody's different, we love and accept. But some people not like that, you know what I'm saying?
It's crazy to think, because growing up in a town that had very, very few people of color, like very minimal, I would think that people growing up in a more diverse community would be so much more accepting, understanding, open, loving. But now you're telling me that's not really the case.
It's not always the case sometimes.
And I guess I could see that a little bit, There's hate crimes in the city against people of color, people of different religious backgrounds against the, Hasidic Jews. There's a lot of different hate crimes going on.
Yeah. So, like, to piggyback off of that, sometimes that diversity can be bad, even though you're the kind of person who sees the good in everybody being together, living in one place.
Yeah.
But the good side of it is just that everybody's so different. You get a chance to eat, the food that you probably wouldn't make in your own house because of that diversity. It may be some kind of style of dress that you see somebody else wearing that comes from their culture. And you're like, oh, I like that too. I want to incorporate that into the way I dress.
Yeah.
So this city being a melting pot like it is, it could be good or bad depending on, how people use it.
I thought it was really cool going to the park that's walkable from our apartment. Seeing, and I'm not gonna, I don't know exactly what they were doing, but it was like a group of Asian women, and they had swords, and they were like, it looked like almost like Tai Chi with swords, but I'm not sure, so I'm not gonna say that's what it was. But they were like doing like these slow kind of dance movements with the swords, and I thought that was so cool how we could literally just like walk a few minutes down the road and see something like that, which I don't know anything about, but it's just like, whoa, it's just like doing this in the park, no big deal.
That's the pro to the diversity right there, definitely. I remember seeing them doing that. I was like, looking from afar though, you wouldn't want them to get
you don't
really into it.
Then I was like, ooh, they got swords in the park. Ooh, that's dangerous.
But definitely. And it seems so relaxing, like you say, it seemed like kind of like a choreography to it, So it's beautiful to be able to see that, And then we could just go down the block and you see like a whole nother different type of people, you know what I'm saying? A whole different group of people. Even within the building that we live in, there's so many different types of people that are living here, and we all living together. So far it's been good, so it's beautiful when it's like that.
So what's your top con about living in the city?
The top con of living in the city, the top bad thing living in the city is definitely the attitude. I've often heard about New York state of mind. And to me, before, that always meant to me that the New York state of mind was the pride that you took in being from the city. Good or bad, I always did have a sense of pride of being from New York, being from Brooklyn. But now I feel like everything has changed to where the New York state of mind is like, just you gotta rush. And the hustle and bustle that you talked about, people taking that to like the millionth power, man.
Yeah.
Because everybody is just moving so fast and not going anywhere when it really comes down to it. Whether it's like the way that they're driving the cars, the way that they're walking down the streets, the way that the people are in their business establishments. Everybody is just rushing. And for me, I don't dig it that much. Because I feel like if you got to rush to be somewhere, you could have taken the time to just get up earlier and take your time to get there
That's a
and
good
be
point.
on time. You don't gotta just rush all the time, because
Yeah.
when you rush, you're affecting somebody else's day.
Yeah.
What if you bump into them? It could be a car accident, God forbid. Anything.
Yeah.
You know? So it also brings me back to when we were in LA. I feel like LA is a big city, of course, but the people's minds were just different.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was so chill. Never before have I worked at a job where the employees were outside of the job waiting to get in. Because they just chose to get there to their job early.
Yeah.
Here in New York, everybody trying to rush in within 5 minutes of the time that they got to clock in.
Yeah.
That's why you always see people looking like, oh, I got to hurry up and get to work. You don't have to hurry when it comes down to it. But being here in New York City will make you think you got to rush.
Yeah.
So I think the mindset is a con when it affects the attitude of the people like it does.
That
How
makes
about
sense.
you, though?
So the biggest con for me with city living is definitely all of the honking, which kind of goes along with what you're saying with the mindset. Everyone's rushing. But yeah, being a driver, I love driving. Especially like my favorite day to drive is like when the sun's out, when it's just warm enough to open up the windows a little bit. You know, and driving upstate is so different than driving in the city. And I can drive in both, but it's a lot more stressful driving over here. People just like walk out into the middle of the road without looking. People are always honking at you as soon as the light turns green. So it's not really an enjoyable experience here to drive. And then not to mention all the stoplights, which is important because there's a lot of people on crosswalks. But they don't really follow those rules anyway. But I digress. So, yeah, definitely all the honking. I try so hard not to take it personal and not to let it bother me, but it just does. It's like overwhelming like experience because it's such you have to really be focused visually, and the more people and the more cars are around, the more alert you have to be.
Right,
and then you
true.
get the honking, and it's just too much for me. I can't stand when people honk. I understand the horn is supposed to be there for watch out, you're gonna hit me, like
Right.
you know, something like that. Watch out, there's danger. It's not supposed to be go to lights green, and that's
Get out of my way.
Yeah, and that's how it feels, and that's the biggest pet peeve of mine living in the city is all the honking. And then secondly, I would say the pests, and then third, the attitude, because those are definitely my top.
Yeah, definitely it's a lot of pests. Again,
Yeah.
from so many people living in the same area.
Yeah.
You know, New York is one of the bigger cities because we've been to some cities even together, and we like, oh, it's kind of small in comparison to New York. You know,
Yeah.
even though they may be considered cities, they still kind of smaller than New York.
Yeah.
However, New York gets smaller with the more people that are here, and with the more people that are here, it's more trash because we all have to throw things out.
Too, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then with the trash, sometimes it's just laying out on the streets. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's put up there in a nice stack, but however, that's still trash out on the streets.
Yeah.
And then that's going to bring them pests for sure, you know? Like, it's going to bring them rats, mice,
Yeah.
and things like that. So, yeah, I can see how that can be a con to living in the city because everybody got to throw their trash out, and, you know, them pests want to eat. They got to eat too.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't like pests because they be up in your house living rent free. The least they could do is pay some rent. Feel me? That's all I gotta say about that. Woosah, man.
That-
Crazy.
It's been a wild few years.
And most of it has been wild, I think, from living in the city. So we have city living to thank for some of the adventurous stories,
That's true.
you know, that we have to tell, you know.
Yeah, we have a lot of stories.
Mm-hmm. And it's still going to be more to come, no matter where we go. But, you know, I think years down the line, though, because we do plan to, you know, move away and get a real nice house at some point. So,
Oh, I was just thinking like a nice house. You want okay? We're getting a real nice house. Ow!
we gotta aim high. You know what I'm saying? We gotta aim high, and we're gonna do what we gotta do, like you mentioned earlier. You know, even if we gotta grind a little bit more, we'll do what it takes.
Yeah.
And so when we get the real nice house, we'll be able to look back on these stories. We'll be able to look back on this episode and be like, yo, look where we came from, talking about city living. And now we just go to the city on the weekends, you know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that. So I think it'd be cool. You know,
but watch your necklace.
Actually, this necklace is actually for Jada, actually though, bro. Mm-hmm. This is me commemorating Jada being here. So I think she know that. She always trying to get that chain.
Oh.
She like, this is kind of like me, but then it's not. So yeah.
So going back to the pests, the thing about city living, especially if you're in an apartment, which most people are, no matter how cleanly you are, no matter how clutter-free you are, no matter what, you still might have pests because of all the other people around you. We don't know what they're doing next door. We don't know what they're doing upstairs.
They don't know what we doing.
And that's kind of creepy too, because people could have like dead bodies piled up next to us and we don't know.
I've heard stories of people in the city living in apartments, making swords in their apartment. Like, you really never know what people are doing.
Yeah.
Here in this big
it's
old
scary.
city.
They might have guns right next door. Like, we don't know.
You never know.
I mean, that's the same thing living anywhere. Your neighbors might have guns and...
True. And they may also have a basement to keep people in for many, many years.
But I think it's creepier knowing it might be, like, right on the other side of this wall. Like,
true.
Whoa.
But guess what? How about this, though? Because sometimes living in the city can provide a sense of safety because you just know that somebody's seen something.
Yeah.
You know, with everybody living so close, it's a safe bet that somebody has seen something if something has happened.
But, and going along with that movie we were watching recently, depending on what the situation is, people might not talk. If it's a real dangerous situation where there might be some dangerous people involved, there might be 15 people that saw it and they might not say anything.
True. That's actually a good point.
So.
But city living equals cameras. How about that?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
There's cameras everywhere.
Everywhere. Yep. Sometimes in the bathrooms in some establishments you go to.
Oh, God.
Hopefully not. You know? That's not funny. I shouldn't laugh at that. But this is why I like talking about things like this because it's no right or wrong answer. We can just give our opinions.
Yeah.
But overall, your city living experience, has it been worth it? Because I know you both was doing music, which is what brought us together.
Yeah.
You coming down to Brooklyn, the city, to pursue music. So that's a plus. Thanks to city living for that, because I guess you felt like it was some opportunities down here. Mm-hmm. So that helped us, get together. But overall, do you feel like it helped you in any kind of way with your music career?
I mean, that's tough because I think that, we've had a lot of other things going on. Like, we got married, we had a baby, we moved twice. So I think there's just been so much going on. I haven't been able to focus on my music as much. But I don't think that's necessarily, I don't know if that's necessarily from living in the city as opposed to not living in the city. I do sometimes feel like maybe I was a little more motivated living upstate. So I'm like, the prospect of going to the city for this and that. And now I'm like, I'm here. It could just be like any time. So then I'm not really.
Ooh, it made you kind of like step back and settle a little bit.
I think maybe it did.
That's very interesting. So with all that being said, are you able to say that city living has been worth it?
I think it's been worth it for a few different reasons. Like, I think we were looking for apartments upstate in the city all around, and we found one here. So I think, everything happens for a reason. Definitely. And I'm glad I could be here with you. And then we had Jada, and Jada's now Brooklyn born, which is pretty dope.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, it's been cool, like, going to Coney and, like, exploring different places around. We got our yogurt spot. We got our favorite Indian spot. So we got our favorite Southern soul food spot. So I think that's really cool. Like, we have definitely had a lot of good memories, explored Brooklyn and the city. So I think it's definitely been worth it. But do I see myself spending the rest of our lives here? I don't think so.
Yeah, because I definitely would have to agree with that. You know, one Jada to not develop any of the anger that comes from the city and, you know, all of that hustle and bustle and stuff like that.
And overstimulation.
Yeah, true.
That's how it is for me. It's just like too much. Like, I feel like I can't breathe. I walk outside. I want to just like walk out and not have to encounter anybody every so often. And it's just like the minute you walk outside, there's a person. It's just like, whew.
Pretty much impossible.
Yeah.
But I think for me, city living has been worth it. And the reason I say that is because I feel like it helps you be stronger and it could test you. You know?
Definitely.
You can learn a bit about yourself having to go through all of that. Like how you mentioned, if somebody's rushing you, honking their horn behind you, it's a test. It's a small test right there because you have to decide. I fail
most of the time.
Well, I disagree with that. I feel like I'm in the car with you most times, and I think you passed that test because most people would be like, okay, somebody honking behind me. Now I got to run this person over who's trying to walk across the street just to satisfy that person behind me. Nah, you be like, why is they honking, bro? But you let the person go about their business, and then you do what you got to do. So I feel like the city living has been worth it on small levels to big levels because it can show us how we are and if we can handle the pressure. So now when we do go and get the really nice house, we're going to be that much more strong because we know how to deal with the city. When we living out there, coming back just to visit, maybe go to the opera, go on Broadway or something like that, we're going to be like, okay, yeah, we're going back to the city. We know how to navigate. We know what to do. Whereas if it wasn't no city living experience, we probably would just be like a deer in the headlights, you know? So I think it's definitely been worth it.
Okay.
Yeah. So still a love-hate relationship for me though, but it's worth it.
There you have it.
And there you have it. So you already know this has been
Breakfast with the Bullocks.
Mic drop.
No more hesitation.